Hi, everybody, and welcome to Digital Champions. I'm your host, Charlene Shirk, where we speak to some of the most innovative thinkers in the digital space. And today we're joined by Chris Gray of the Buycologist. Thanks so much for joining us today, Chris.
Thank you for having me on, Charlene. I appreciate it.
I love the name, the Buycologist, because you're also Dr. Gray. So talk to us about how we use this psychology in our marketing approach.
Absolutely. I am a clinical psychologist by training. And about 25 years ago, I started making the transition into marketing and started leading focus groups, really fell in love with that. And I realized that what I love about psychology and my passion for it is really understanding how people make decisions, how they go about their lives, both the what's actually happening on the outside and what's happening on the inside as well, which is often much more interesting. So I work with sales and marketing professionals, leaders, their teams, anyone who's looking for a competitive edge in a very crowded marketplace. And I teach them to learn to think like a consumer or a shopper, rather than just thinking about them, and get into that mindset and use empathy as a superpower.
Ooh, talk to me more about that. Seems to be a lot of lacking of
Sure.
empathy these days. So, are you looking at their buyer, or even maybe a wider range of potential buyers, and how do we turn them into buyers?
That's exactly right. So it is looking at both people who are buying and people who they would like to buy, and finding out what their needs are. It's layering in human insight with the data to develop that empathy and insight into what makes people tick, what they're looking for, their needs, what from an emotional standpoint, what they're looking for as well. And by doing that, developing that empathy, you can be more relevant to your consumer base. Relevance is the golden ticket for any kind of connection, engagement, motivating people to buy. And it is the gateway to providing value for people. It is incredibly difficult to provide value and be relevant to someone that you don't know. And so the more we can understand the nuance of how people think, how they make decisions, the psychology underneath it, the better able you'll be to connect, engage, and motivate people.
Now, I have to think that what we thought we knew 2 years ago is a little bit on its head. And so then how do you even measure kind of, well, where we were, where we are, and then where your consumer mind is going to go in the next couple of years? Because, gosh, half of us don't even know what's happening in the next year or two.
That's true. And I think that's another reason why going deep and understanding what makes people tick is so important. Because the more you understand the nuance and the depth of human experience, the more you're able to anticipate how people will respond in certain situations and motivate them to respond in a way that creates wins for everyone. And so by going deep and providing people with the skills to develop that empathy and really understand what's happening beneath the surface, I'm enabling people to be more competitive, to be more agile, and to be better able to motivate and engage.
And so what's your best tip, your $1 million tip that you would give someone? They meet you at a networking event and they ask what you do and you're like, well, I'm a marketer, but I'm a psychologist.
Yeah.
So what would you give them the biggest tip if they've got a business and they're wanting to pick your brain about how they can best market their product?
I would say, first and foremost, know your audience. Know as much about them as you can. And understand the nuance as well as the data. Data is an incredibly important foundation, but when we simplify the world to measure it with data, we often leave out many important details that can help give you a competitive edge, and can make you more relevant, more interesting, and help you stand out in a crowded marketplace. So use data, but understand that it's not necessarily telling the entire picture. And so using observation, using skills of listening, and developing that empathy can really give you that competitive edge. And that's what I teach people to do. I've got a process called engagement engineering, where we go step by step and work through how to understand and engage your consumer even more effectively.
Well, that is all really interesting stuff, because you're absolutely right. I think data puts us all pretty much on an equal footing, but it's that next level of knowing how to really attract your customer that can make you successful. Thanks so much for joining us, Dr. Gray. We appreciate you being here on Digital Champions.
Thank you, Charlene. I appreciate it.
I love getting the chance to pick your brain when your brain knows so much about the brain. And that's Dr. Chris Gray from the Buycologist. And if you'd like to learn more about what he's up to, you can check him out on dailyadbrief.com. And that's going to do it for us on Digital Champions. I'm Charlene Shirk, and we look forward to learning something new with you next time.